Hey Internet, welcome back to the world of Tyria. On this channel, we explore the factions that build, craft, and engineer the worlds we explore in our games, movies, and stories. We're talking about the crafting system in Guild Wars 2 today, but more than that, I'm going to be talking about the magic that underpins it. I'll be revealing all I can about the mysteries of the Mystic Forge, its origin, its powers, and what it can do. As a warning, the following video does contain spoilers for the stories of Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. Alright, let's get into it. Tyria is a world absolutely saturated with magic, created and shaped by elder dragons through whom that magic flows. A place where every weapon is imbued with it, it's woven into every inch of cloth. Every stone and brick in the walls of every city pulse with remnants of magic, and the world is tied together by lines of glowing power. Every bite of food is infused with magic. With every breath in and out, it passes through you. Your tools, your armor, your weapons, the dirt upon which you stand are fashioned from power and will by dragons and have been blessed, or cursed, by gods that once walked the world and some that still do. It follows that to be an artist or a builder, a blacksmith or a tailor, you need to learn to use that same magic, to mold it. To know your materials is to know the magic that lies within them. To work them is to shape it. One tool above all exists in the world of Tyria by which we can shape, craft, reform, and remake. One tool by which we can amplify and alter those magics. Deep in the earth beneath Lion's Arch, and connected by magic to well-guarded havens across the world, is the Mystic Forge. A strange, glowing well of magic that gives us the ability to make and alter the fabric of the world around us. It's home to a being so powerful he can shape these magics at will, and he'll do it for a price. To use it, you have to train. You have to learn the skills required to work with the magical materials of Tyria. You have to start somewhere. Before we get too into the mystical stuff, we better talk about how crafting works in the game. It's not just about tossing some items into a magic well and having something new pop out. Before you even begin to craft, you should learn the various disciplines available to you and what they do. Remember, you can only choose 2 to remain active per character. Switching an active discipline has a cost as well. So what craft disciplines can you learn? Well, the Armorsmith discipline lets you create heavy armor, though you can also produce armor runes and metal boxes which act as inventory storage. Artificers can make magical weapons like staffs, scepters, and foci. They also produce weapon sigils, potions, tonics, and tuning crystals. Chefs can craft food and dyes. The Huntsman discipline allows you to craft projectile weapons like bows, as well as some offhand weapons. They can also create weapon sigils and maintenance oils. Jewelers can make amulets, earrings, and rings. They also produce jewels and jade bot components. Leatherworkers can make medium-level armor, as well as armor runes and leather bags. The scribe can make guild decorations and some sigils and consumables. The tailor can make light armor, runes, and cloth bags. Weaponsmiths make weapons, sigils, and sharpening stones. And lastly, the handiwork discipline is related to the build system, which I'll do a video on later in the series. This discipline is independent of the others for the purpose of determining the number of disciplines your character can learn. As you progress in your training in any one discipline, you'll learn new recipes. You can also purchase recipes from NPCs as well as from other players, and find them as loot in one way or another. In order to perform your chosen trade, you have to be in proximity to a specific type of workstation. Each craft discipline uses a unique station, and not all locations have access to every station. My feelings on workstations are mixed, but in this case I think it works fine. When using a workstation, you also have to have access to the materials required to craft the item. These items can be in your inventory or in your bank. Craft stations offer a number of functions. The Discovery tab allows you to combine materials in various combinations in an attempt to discover new recipes that you don't currently possess. The Production tab is the place where you craft items from recipes that you've already learned. The station will also allow you to access the functions of your bank with the Bank Access, Material Storage, and Wardrobe tabs. Crafting items doesn't just let you turn raw or processed materials into items. You often have to create intermediary items which have no use outside of this function, though many of them can be sold or sometimes broken down. For instance, to make a helmet, you need a helmet casing and a helmet lining. I'm not so much a fan of this type of crafting. It creates a lot of junk items, and it feels like a needless waste of time and resources. Just another step added for the sake of creating a challenge. Recipes you find or buy are often learnable by more than one discipline. There's some overlap in what specific disciplines can create. So, you want to learn a craft discipline. How do you get started? The first thing you need to do is to speak to a master craftsman, an NPC who can grant you access to the skill and can often also act as a vendor of discipline-specific items. Each discipline can be trained to a maximum skill level of 500, at which point you're considered to be a grandmaster and are often granted access to unique tools and materials, in addition to being able to craft recipes at that level. There are 3 exceptions to this. As of this writing, the jeweler and scribe disciplines have a max level of 400, while the handiworker skill tops out at 399. These numbers may change in future releases. As you progress, you move through various level ranges. These level ranges unlock recipes. Each range is associated with a resource tier that becomes usable at that level. The levels in their tiers are Novice from levels 0 to 74, Initiate from 75 to 149, Apprentice from 150 to 224, Journeyman from 225 to 399, Adept from 300 to 399, Master from 400 to 499, and Grandmaster at 500. As you craft items in a discipline that's not maxed out, you gain crafting experience, which fills up a meter. Once that meter is filled, you gain another level in your discipline. This experience is different from your character experience gained through combat, exploration, and questing. The way this system works makes it feel to me like it's not as well integrated as it could be. It feels a little separate. That said, if you aren't a fan of it, you can play the game without even touching the craft system if you want and not feel like you're missing out, which can be a good thing. I've been playing for years, and have in that time only maxed out one craft skill. My necromancer's a chef, because I thought it would be funny. So we know how crafting works. Now, I'm going to go into a bit of detail about how equipment works in the game. But first, we'll talk about materials. Before you start rummaging around through your recipes to find something you want to make, you're going to need some craft materials. Craft materials come in several forms, from wood and cloth to plants and animal parts. They're also ranked into tiers from 1 to 6, and some materials can be refined into others. The tier of the material will determine the locations where it can be found. Low tier areas only have low tier materials, while higher tier areas have higher tier ones, though you'll have to fight off more powerful enemies to get there. You get crafting materials in a number of ways. You can gather some from the environment using gathering tools such as mining for metals or chopping trees for wood. Resource nodes respawn daily, and some can spawn as rich, meaning they'll give you a much greater amount of the resource. You can loot items from the corpses of your enemies, like taking hides or claws from a wild animal you hunted or stealing a dead bandit's wallet. Some materials can be bought from merchants or traded for with other players. Some materials can be salvaged from other items like weapons and armor you don't need anymore, or junk items that are cluttering up your inventory. Most materials can be stacked up to 250 per stack. You can store them in your bank in a material storage area that's well organized and doesn't interfere with your regular bank storage, which is incredibly helpful, and you can declutter your inventory by automatically sending craft materials to your bank at any time. That said, the clutter in this game is unavoidable. You can also get personal resource nodes in your home instances, which can be handy if you don't feel like adventuring but just need 1 or 2 more bits of ancient wood to finish off a thing. Once you've filled up your material storage, or have enough, you'll have to figure out what you want to make. Really high tier items can take a long time and require some hard to get items to finish. In the world of Tyria, most items are in some way magical, while some are, to be honest, pretty useless. Items are ranked in terms of rarity tiers, and items of each tier have their names written in colors that signify their tier. Pretty standard stuff. Each tier is usable by players of a specific level. The lowest tiers being unlocked at all levels, while the highest require higher levels to be usable. The tiers are junk items, named in gray, are not usable at all, but can be sold or be part of a collection. Basic items, named in black, are usable from levels 1 to 80, though they have basic stats with no boost. In other words, these items are not really magical. They also tend to look boring with no effects. Fine items are named in blue and are usable from levels 1 to 80. Masterwork items are named in green and can only be used from levels 14 and up. Rare items are named in gold and are usable above level 30. Exotic items are named in orange and are usable from level 62 up. Ascended items are named in pink and are only usable at level 80. And last, legendary items are named in purple and also only usable at level 80. The tiers determine what sort of stat boosts and how many upgrades an item can have. When you buy items for your character, you'll want to buy items of the appropriate tier. This will keep you effective in combat as you face tougher and tougher enemies. Your armor comes in 3 types: heavy, medium, and light, each type usable by certain professions. Appearances are interchangeable between armors of the same type, but not across the different types. For instance, you can't put a heavy armor appearance on a piece of light armor. Weapon types are much more complex than armor types in Guild Wars 2. I won't get into them in much detail here, except to explain why this is the case. See, weapons don't just have a basic set of attacks or properties. When each profession equips a weapon of a certain type, it gets unique, profession-specific skills. This means that one character with a sword will act completely different from another one, and you should select your items to best match your playstyle. This is a system that took some getting used to, but that, on the whole, I really like. Guild Wars 2 has always been innovative in the way it handles skills and abilities. Another type of item that you can craft is containers. These take the form of boxes and bags, which add slots to an inventory of your choosing, character or bank. Higher tier bags have more slots to hold items, and as the number of slots increases, the value of the bag is increased greatly. The highest tier bags sell for lots of money. Bags can also have specific effects related to their use. For instance, being invisible means that items from those bags will not be sellable to merchants, which allows you to protect valuable inventory from being sold or broken down by mistake. Others automatically collect one type of item or another, like specific resources, to avoid cluttering up the rest of your inventory. Weapons and armor are what give your characters the ability to fight and survive. In Tyria, they can be imbued with powers and properties of all kinds. They're also the first thing you'll notice when you meet someone. Did their hair catch your eye, or was it the giant glowing trident they were twirling around? Hard to say. They can look flashy or subdued, but once you make them, you're going to want to upgrade them. Carving sigils is an ancient way of imbuing an item with magic. In Tyria, anyone who makes weapons will learn to craft sigils as well. These magic designs imbue a weapon with a particular effect on meeting a specific condition, or passively by simply buffing one attribute or another. In a similar fashion, carving runes and placing them on pieces of armor imbues the piece with some magic or another. The more runes of the same type a character possesses across their various armor pieces, the greater the bonuses those runes provide. If 6 of the same rune are worn together, the stacking bonuses are very potent. Another way to upgrade gear that is either legendary or ascended is the use of infusions. These are items that provide protection from certain effects, attribute buffs, or other bonuses. There are many ways to upgrade your gear, and since there's more gear than just weapons and armor, I'll not discuss them all in great detail or risk boring you, but objects like your gliders, jade bots, jewelry, back items, etc. can all be upgraded as well, and it's helpful to be an accomplished crafter if you want to make the most of these various systems. No matter how much power one has at their disposal, they're going to get hungry. The best chefs are able to craft foods that provide benefits to hungry adventurers. There's no real hunger or thirst system in Guild Wars 2, except that if you've eaten and the buffs you get from your food wear off, you'll be debuffed for a time unless you eat again within that window. Similarly, you can't be harmed by consuming too little drink, but you can certainly debuff yourself if you drink too much. Being drunk causes not only stat debuffs, but visual effects that make it difficult for a player to see and react to things on screen. Drinks do offer stat buffs, and potions offer utility enhancements that come in handy. They can give you an edge against more difficult enemies. Maintenance oils and sharpening stones are consumable items that increase specific stats when used. Lower tier versions are pretty easy to come across, but higher tier ones take some skill to craft. Tonics are items that transform a character's appearance and sometimes alter the way they move or put them into a state that allows them to interact with other players in things like brawls. Tonics are often awarded as prizes or purchased and can be upgraded or made endless using the powers of the Mystic Forge. Endless means you can keep reusing them as much as you want. Which finally brings us to the burning question of the video. What really is the Mystic Forge? Well, first rule of the Mystic Forge is don't jump into the Mystic Forge. It hurts a bit, then spits you back out. Unless you're going to do the Mithrite Gambit raid, but that's a whole other topic. Anyway, what is it? Well, at first glance, it's a large well filled with magical light, above which a glowing crystal hovers. There are several places where it can be found, including in Lion's Arch, and in the Wizard's Tower in the home of Maguma. Standing next to the forge is a person called Mayani. She is the forge's attendant, and will also sell you some items which may come in handy if you intend to use the forge. To use the forge, you step up to its brink and place inside it a series of items in the correct combination, and they'll be transformed into something else. The item you get depends on what you place inside. How does it work, you ask? Is it some ancient technology? No, don't be foolish. It's the home of a magical water djinn from Melona who likes to make things for people. The forge itself acts as the entrance to a pocket dimension where the djinn Zomoros keeps his vast hoard of treasures. He speaks through Mayani, who keeps him company. You can use the forge and the power of Zomoros to turn an assortment of artifacts into ascended weaponry. You'll have to endure many trials and face many foes to find these things, but if you do, you can present them to Zomoros, who will reward you with the item you're looking for. You can alter or upgrade items you already possess by giving the item along with others to Zomoros. You can change the attributes of an item or strip old enchantments, sigils, and runes from an item. You can turn a combination of seemingly inferior or useless items into one of greater quality. You can combine resources to gain another, rarer resource. The Mystic Forge becomes the ultimate crafting tool because after a time, most of the items you need to create require Zomoros' power. You'll need it to craft much of your legendary and exotic gear, promote your crafting materials, and create and improve your tonics and miniatures. Now Zomoros is from Elona and traveled to the land of Kryta with Mayani. They came to Lion's Arch because Zomoros had heard rumors that the city was a fine place, and indeed he found somewhere great to set up his shop. Since then, he's helped the people of Tyria in other ways as well. It was Zomoros who identified the Karkra as the creatures invading Lion's Arch in 1326. He's provided useful tools and information to many who come seeking his help, always for a price, it seems. I don't believe that any mortal knows Zomoros' true age, though he does speak of times within his own memory when the world was much emptier, long, long ago. He's also employed a number of Skrid assistants over the years to help him in creating and distributing legendary items. They do cause chaos from time to time, as Skrid are wont to do. The Mystic Forge, therefore, remains mystical. We know what it does and who's responsible, but we may never know the whole story. We know only what Zomoros and Mayani are willing to tell us. Those who come to Tyria and learn to shape its matter and its magic into items to use or sell have their work cut out for them. At the very least, finding the right materials means facing some challenging situations. You'll fight dragons and demons, gods and djinn, and hopefully you'll come out the other side with your armor on your back, your weapon in your hand, and your friends by your side. Well, the craft system over in Tyria is pretty complex, and in my opinion it's a bit messy, but it's got its charms. I couldn't possibly do a video on the entire system without boring you with a bunch of facts you could easily look up on the wiki. The system does fit the lore and setting pretty well, so nothing really feels out of place, which I like. Well, anyway, I hope you really enjoyed the video and got something out of it. If you liked it, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit subscribe. If you can think of anything I missed or any corrections you want to make, hit up the comments below. Oh, and before you go, a shout out to my patrons who help support the channel. Our $10 patron is Watuki at the artisan level. If you want to get your name in the credits, head on over and sign up. The Patreon link is in the description. You'll get access to an exclusive Discord as well. So thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate it. Join us next week when we'll be talking about everyone's favorite race of warlike cat people, the Char. I'll see you then. And remember, don't go fishing in crate-infested waters. They're real angry and have real good aim for a bunch of fish people. Alright, bye internet.